So one of the things I like about these orchids is that they're gorgeous. I would not personally buy that as a piece of art to go on my wall because it's the background of it's too flat.
We're talking about the red orchid?
This purpley
Yes,
one, yeah.
yes. Well, that was shot in my studio, not out in the forest, obviously,
Right.
against a white background. And for me, the what I was trying to do was separate the orchid from everything, just so that your mind focuses on what an exquisite form the orchid flower is, but also that arc. I took out all the stems and everything, so it's floating, um, which is, I think, another way to isolate the the, the perspective of it for what it is. And the white was too, I don't know. I was imagining that on a wall, and it would have been just a bit too um, form-filling whiteness, if you know what I mean. I felt that, okay, I thought, well, let's fill it in with something, a color that is not too strong, that's going to overtake the flower,
Mhm.
but is also complementary in the sense that it will set off that lovely color of the orchid, and also not be oppressive when it's put on a wall. Like what you, if you put that big on a wall, which you can, I mean, it could go 5 or 6 feet across. You don't want that background color to go "Ugh!" at you and take away from the flower. So it's kind of muted back a little bit from the intensity of the color of the flower, because the flower is the important thing. And I just think it's just a beautiful balance to it, to me. And you are not forced, but your eye is taken to the flower because there's nothing else to involve you. You're not going to start looking at what's that in the background. That's why I put it on a flat background.
You know how your calla lily, it has that like blurred background, so it looks like it's part of something, but it's still the focal point.
Yes, I'm thinking of that too. In fact, I am actually working on that yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Well, I'm going to be actually creating backgrounds with myself, not AI, that I can use for precisely that. Uh, there's another flower example, which is the black rose. So when I was experimenting with, those little programs that you can put your images into a room, which are really useful to look at, and we have them on the site. Um, I noticed that the rose shot with the black was just too much on the wall. You know what I mean? It was just became a heavy weight on the wall. So I spent 4 days messing around with different colors to put that rose against that might work better, so that that whole square format with the rose in it is also an object of art in itself that will work on the wall, and be harmonious with itself and with the room. The black seemed to be too heavy, so I've been playing that, and then that color's too vibrant. It's taking, it's going to be almost a shock. Now, that's one thing that you can do when you're placing art on a wall, is have that sort of op art effect, but you can overdo it when you're talking about fine art nature. It needs to be something that is harmonious. So that is why I'm thinking that I'm going to place that on a natural background that is not impinging on the subject, and hopefully will enhance it, and will also work well on a wall. in a harmonious way with the room. We're talking about sort of 3D kind of levels of experience, really, here. You're talking about, with that particular image, the fly on the rose and how that balances the composition a lot and draws your attention in another way psychologically to, this little life on this little flower. uh, its presence on that flower is compositionally really interesting, I think, apart from the humorous element of it. And then you have that whole thing within that square frame, and that in turn in somebody's room. So I mean, I would hate to have to do, well, you can have this rose and I'll do it on green, I'll do it on pink, I'll do it on yellow. That's kind of daft, but and it has to be something that works with that particular image and is part of the work, in completion. People's taste of colors is up to them. You have no control over that. And I don't think if I start going down that route, I'm losing the sense of art. I'm then talking about being an interior designer and not mocking up an AI thing that happens to have an image that I photographed in it. I don't want to go there, But I do think that having a complementary setting for the object that you're trying to show people is important, just to show that item off to its best extent.
Absolutely. And when we were talking the other day, I brought up that little fly on there,
Yeah,
and you were telling me that it was something you would didn't even notice until after you got to the editing table.
yeah, I didn't. Well, when I was looking at the flower, because that flower is a crop out of an image, and if you can think of it, that image is in the lens of a camera, which is zoomed in already into the flower and I'm quite a distance away from the flower. I'm looking at the flower. I didn't see that little guy in there at all until, as you say, I opened it up in Photoshop. So then somebody else will go, "Oh, I got to get rid of that," and get rid of it. It's an imperfection. And I looked at it and I thought, that's not an imperfection, in a graphic sense. It's wonderful. You'd almost want to put it in there, because it just balances that whole effect. It enhances that softness and the color things of the flower. It's a rude awakening, or a rude reminder, if you like, of how delicate that flower is, you know. So it serves multiple purposes.
Do you have a lot of calla lilies? Those are my absolute favorite, like flower of all time.
They are, and there are so many different calla lilies too. I do have a lot. I haven't put them up on the site because I could easily overload the site to make it Calla Lilies Are Us. I just wanted to float a couple up there to see what would happen. Yeah, I do have a variety of different ones. There's a pink calla lily, which the flower form is completely different, but it's still got that calla lily thing. I don't know what it is exactly, um, but it's graphically a very different thing altogether. And I have a couple of images of those. I used to have those in my little koi lake I have in the garden, but they got blown over in a storm and ended up not doing very well. And I replaced them with this vivid red one we have right now, which, funny enough, in life is really lovely, but doesn't photograph very well. So the pink
There
ones
was
are
some people
perfect.
like that.
Yeah, I know I'm one of them. I'm wonderful in real life.
Tell me more about your koi pond.
Mm. Well, it was the first thing that we made when we moved into this house, which we inherited from Sylvia's mother. The garden was just gravel and grass. And the house that we've been renting for 18 years, I had made a little koi pond. It was like tiny. It was about 3 or 4 feet across. Uh, and then I looked at this meadow. It seemed to me like it was a meadow in size. I thought, okay, we're going to put something in properly. So it isn't as big as I wanted, but it's an infinity shaped pool which I designed. It's 3 feet deep to stop raccoons getting in and hoiking fish out. Yeah, we went and chose rocks for it, like particular rocks, knowing where we were going to put them. Dragging them in was like doing Stonehenge or building the pyramids. They're heavy. So anyway, yeah, it was a labor of love, definitely. And it's a focal point. It's a place of quiet, and you are immediately taken into usually horrible words like tranquility, but they work. It really is. The sound of the water, you are immediately put at ease by being there. And then when you look in and see the koi with this perpetual ballet of color just moving around, and just gliding under the lily pads and all the rest of it, it is something that is of immense value. Everybody who comes into the garden just loves it, and uh, everybody's happy. You can't, it's not like, we're tuning up motorbikes in the backyard. It's like, it's a completely different experience. And it absolutely has the desired effect. It also brings in dragonflies, hummingbirds, butterflies, occasionally herons, which incidentally I also love. Herons and egrets, they are the most incredible bird. So I do a lot of photography on them too.
Well, you have one here called meditation. And what
Yes,
kind of flower is that?
I don't know. I'm not very good at naming flowers, but it's actually taken from a garden which is to do with meditation and spirituality, in here in Los Angeles. It's kind of like a silent retreat. You're not really supposed to talk there, and there's a huge lake and this wonderful, essentially rose garden with all kinds of flowers. And I took that there, and it just does. It's one of those things. It's like an altar, you know. And the more you look at it, the more sublime the effect is on the beholder, I think.
This is saying it's part of heirloom roses, which is this particular one is called Miss Congeniality.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's beautiful. I love that story. Because when we were in San Francisco, we would go through the tea gardens, and
Yes. Yes.
you would have to, you have to maintain a respectful quietness and peace. And
You just do though, don't you?
yeah,
It's like going into a church. You don't start turning on Little Richard, you know,
no,
or
no,
you
maybe
may,
you
but
should.
you old rock and roller, you.
I
Um,
am. That's all in me.
mm.
And then I love this artichoke.
That is again in our garden. Sylvia planted artichokes because she loves artichokes. For me, it's the best part. I don't really care for artichokes to eat personally, but look at that flower. I mean, to me, it looks to me like the Hajj, with rotating devotees, bowing down to, whatever it is in the middle, all hail. It's like all those petals, they're like bowing. It also reminds me a little bit of the Stevie Wonder cover, to what was it? Um, uh, was it Fulfilling This First, or I can't remember which album it was. Anyway, there's a circular cover to, but yeah, I just think it's, and when the further you look into it, the deeper it gets, and the colors, incredible.
I think of like how you can find symmetry in nature,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's just exactly what I see in that, like
exactly.
almost a little bit of that spiral.
Yeah. But it's symmetry with a purpose, all of it, always. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. It's not something that you fabricate in AI and you go, make me a round thing with radiating things coming out of it, and there's no, there's no purpose other than to please you. These all have a, hundreds of thousands of years of development. Yep, this works. Yep, well, we'll tweak this a bit more, make these a little bit browner, and this bit more purple. It seems to work. So it is. It's like it's beauty with a purpose. But sometimes you can walk past them and not really think about it. Sometimes you need to isolate, this subject matter, and that's what I'm trying to do, especially with things like, as you say, the flowers, the bloom and decay series. People will walk past a rose that's starting to wilt and go, "Oh, that's a wilting rose." But if you look at it again, it's actually got a lot more interest to it than that innocent, pure, youthful first bloom, which is lovely as well. But when you look at all the tarnishes and the little bits of rotting things and the way that the textures have changed and the fold of the leaves has changed, it's absolutely wonderful on some of those. I intend to put up a lot more of them because it's something that's fascinated me. It's got nothing to do with the fact I might be a wilting rose myself, but
We all
beauty
are.
with
That's
age.
just the cycle of life, right?
Yes, and each cycle has its own beauty, and we tend to forget that in our mad rush to stay forever young.
The bees and the bugs.
I just want to put a few up there to give people again, the concept of looking at things that, in this case, you may not even see. There's one little guy there that's the green grasshopper. I didn't see that. Again, it was like the flower on the rose. I was photographing the flower and I went, my God, look at this guy in the middle, you know. Luckily, I was photographing on a large enough format camera that I can isolate that center part and bring it out and let the flower be just a background to this guy who was nestled in what was originally the subject. But now this little guy is the subject. And I just think the color combinations and the textural combinations and just what he is. I mean, that is the cutest little thing. Yeah, I mean, your mum must love him, him or her. Uh, but it's just so lovely, and I just strikes me as just a fantastic thing that I would guarantee you that just about everybody, if not everybody, who walked past that flower wouldn't have even noticed. Wouldn't have even noticed that little guy. And another one is the flying, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's a wasp, and it's just he's on the edge of a petal of a tiny flower. That little guy is maybe 2 millimeters long. I mean, he's incredibly small, and it's only with a macro lens that you can really get in close enough and keep enough detail to appreciate what he is. And I love that picture because just on a graphic sense, with the background, just the way it works graphically with the fold of the leaf and the way he's angled in it and the color combinations in there. I think it's lovely.
Oh, that purple and green.
Yeah,
Yeah, those hints of yellows. All
yeah,
of those are actual colors within him.
just about. Yeah, yeah,
And so I agree with you. It complements him completely.
yeah. Butterflies are hard. I've got a few more. I just took one there of a static one just so that you could pause and yeah, let's take a look at this guy. It's really quite astonishingly, stunning with the way that nature has made a pattern again. And it all has a purpose. We are not quite sure why ourselves, but I'm pretty sure the butterfly knows inherently because it's still alive. um, but they are incredibly hard to photograph properly because they flutter by. Uh, it's not an easy task. They're easier when they're settled or about to settle. And I've got a few more that I want to pull out. Incidentally, did you see I put up a little video of a slow butterfly in slow motion? I got it yesterday. And it's about 8 seconds, which I thought would be a wonderful thing to put in. It's absolutely gorgeous. Their flight is completely different in slow motion than you see when they're doing it fast. They really have a flap to the wings. Yeah, have a look. It's a new one I put up. It should be in the file there.
Okay, I'll check that out. Tell me about these dragonflies. Like this first one that's like incredibly overexposed. Tell me about that.
That's a solarized version of a regular red dragonfly.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a process that originated in a chemical reaction in the old-fashioned days of photography that you could do in the dark room, and it was a mixture of chemical reactions to an inadvertent flash of light while it's being developed, and it kind of reverses a lot of the colors and the contrasts and the tonal nature of things, and you get these amazing psychedelic versions of something that looked completely different in real life. There are two images, one of which was the real one. There's two of those solarized images, and I also have the original of one of them in there, so you can see the difference. The original is one of the red dragonflies on a it's one where it's looking up from the bottom right to the top left corner. That's another aspect to talk about, is what is still constituted as your art as opposed to AI induced art. And you can argue artificial stuff with art, starting with, I think I did it with you very briefly. You've got Ansel Adams creating his wonderful prints in the darkroom. He didn't create those prints in the camera. His negatives look completely different to what he did in the darkroom, which was burning and dodging with light in the chemicals. That's like, you could regard that as early artificial whatever, not intelligence, because it was his intelligence doing it. But everything in his work is constituted from his ideas and his materials. Artificial intelligence is when you start introducing other elements into it which are not yours. Yeah, they are either borrowed from somebody else, or in their manipulations that the big robot in the sky has made according to your request, but they're not really photographically entirely yours. Whether a piece of graphic art can use artificial intelligence or not, that's a really serious debate. And how much is actually artificial intelligence? When does the art stop being art and start being just artificial intelligence? My photography, I am using moderating filters and inspiration. Occasionally I'll use more than one of my shots in one image. Like I'll lay one on top of another, but they're all mine and it's my decision. So everything that is in my shots is what I have dictated and created. I think that is a distinction that I actually prefer myself to keep, because I can really rest assured that nobody can attack me for saying, well, yeah, you just started with a thimble and then you created a whole sewing machine. it's not the case. So it may be just a feeble old me trying to hang on to things from the past in this day and age, but I think it's important when you're creating art, personally.
I love that.
I don't know whether it makes sense to anybody else or has any value or anything to anybody else, but for me, it does.
Well, there's just something so pure in it too. Like, think about the Beatles. They literally had to go into a studio and create sounds that were
Yeah,
never used before.
yeah, yeah,
And so they had very limited ability to create sounds that we can now just walk in there and hit a button and make. So
yeah.
that in and of itself is, I agree with you. Those using the simplicity of just the things you have in front of you, I think is beautiful.
Or the things that you can find,
Mhm.
you know. And again, for me, I just want to put it all in the service of bringing people's attention to things that A, they may never have seen before or what just walk by, or to reassess and re-look at things that they do look at every day. Um, the whole thing with flowers. I mean, I can take a picture of a rose,
Mhm.
which might have been in my neighbor's garden. Some of them are. And when you walk into past the neighbor's garden, you see that rose in that garden, and your awareness is of that rose in that garden. But you don't really stop and really take in that rose. You may to a certain extent, but if you take a photo of that rose and then take it out of the garden and just accent all its features and isolate it a little bit. I'll take a flower and keep its background, but I'll mute the background so the flower takes a little bit more prominence so that you then focus more on it. But I'll keep the background so it's a natural background and it's in there. But yeah, just enhance the concentration of focus on the subject. Um, and again, you appreciate all the myriad folds and patterns and uh, everything that has been created naturally for a purpose. And they are just beautiful in their purpose. Even if they didn't have a purpose, they're still beautiful. So,
I think everything has a purpose. We might not know it or understand what it is in the
uh-huh,
moment, but I
yeah,
think everything has a purpose.
yeah,
Tell me about the birch.
yes. That was up in the Olympic Peninsula, up in Washington.
Mhm.
And we were driving down a road and we just passed an area where right next to the road had been clear cut for some purpose, but it exposed this this array of forest, like it had been sliced open, and these all these birch trees were there. Um, I have a lot of the original shots in my little guest house. But again, that was a solarized version of a birch forest. And I chose that particular um, effect because you can change it. It's not like you press a button and it's solarized. It's a graduated effect that you can create. And I just felt that was a lovely kind of autumnal palette of colors and textures that I was able to get out of the birches, and completely different from the birches in its own way. I just think it's just a lovely graphic, you know.
It is lovely. I love the hints of blue in there that are so subtle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll do these things and then I'll go in and I'll tweak little areas just to, as you say, like there might be something that's really good, but it's a little too heavy, too bright, whatever. You can just, do things. And So it is a work of creation, which I like.
Tell me about your reads. I know you love these guys.
Oh yeah, well that's tranquility personified, I think. Um, it struck me, the original read struck me as being a very, sort of Japanese kind of feel to it, like you would see in an old Japanese watercolor or a woodblock or something. So I thought I'd just try and work that a little bit in that direction. And I love the fact that the reads and their reflections are kind of floating in. It's not a blank space, because you can see things on the surface and all the rest of it, but it's just an ephemeral lake almost. It's not quite real. And again, I think it just has that feeling of elevating the soul a little bit, out of your day-to-day rush.
I love that. And you wanted to put this on a metal print?
I I'm not quite sure. I can't afford to do them large and with in every medium that I would like. I just can't afford to do that. I think that actually would work well on a canvas. It would probably work well on a metal too. I'm not quite sure how big it could go. I need to get confirmation from the printing part of this organization, to figure out how large it could go. But I think it would be really lovely, um, in a bedroom or in a corridor or somewhere, whatever. It's just a peaceful thing. It's also not. I think it's something that could meld into all kinds of different situations, color wise and everything. But essentially, the idea of all of these images is they do have. I want them to have an effect on people, and 9 times out of 10, the effect I want to have on people is relax, take a moment, uh, just give you a little bit of peace.
Kind of like the surfers one.
Which one?
The surfers, as they're waiting on the waves to come and they're all
Yeah,
along.
yeah. That I think is a very humorous picture. Uh, this was off in Malibu, and it was early in the morning. It was like about 6:30, and all these dudes have got up at night and got their gear together, and they've all got out in the water, and there's no waves. And the sky and the sea are pretty much the same thing, which is a moment to contemplate on in itself. And I think they're all out there doing that. I mean, they're probably all talking about the girl they met last night or whatever. Um, but at the same time, they're all optimistically waiting for the wave, you know. And it's almost like a reflection of life in a way. There you are. We're waiting for it to happen, and you're going to take advantage of it when it comes your way. And they're all there in the same place. And when that wave comes, it's chaos. But right now, they're all just there. And I just think, again, it's a nice little graphic too. It's rather like, it reminds me of birds on telephone wires, you know, uh, which I think also it's rather like notes on a stave of music, where it's all like ding 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 ding, and it's telling you a story in another medium altogether. But this reminds me of that in a way. It's our eyes tend to read from left to right, with everything. Yeah, and it's probably because the way we're told how to read. I often wonder how other cultures read things whose writing is vertical, but we tend to read from left to right. So 9 times out of 10, especially with an image like this, you look at it straight on to start with, but then you will read it left to right. And drama and rhythm can be expressed if you understand that. If you can have the effect you want on people if you understand how to put your images together, or film especially. Um, it's just the nature of film itself is run left to right.
Well, I
So
like what you said about them being optimistic that
yeah,
this
and it's a club. Yeah,
chaos was gonna come. But
yeah,
I think it's the point of what they do with the chaos. They get on top and they ride it to the end, hop
uh-huh,
off, and keep trucking.
yeah, yeah, and they come back for more.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a club.
buttons.
It's a club in a moment of tranquility, waiting for excitement. And 9 times, I would imagine all of them have been there before, and they've come back to do it again, and they're sitting there in this quiet moment, waiting for the excitement to happen. The optimists club, because they all know each other. They wouldn't be there otherwise.
Oh, let's talk about the heron in the clouds.
Ah, now that is the two shots put together. I have a wonder of clouds of all kinds, the thin ones, the little ones, the tall ones, the short ones, the close ones, the way they move, the amount of millions of tons of water suspended up in the atmosphere. So I do take pictures of clouds just as abstracts in their own right. Um, this is a mixture of two of those shots. Uh, the heron in the front is from another shot that I took in a marina, and this heron was almost a silhouette on the original photograph. The nice thing about silhouettes is, in the nature of digital photography, is that dark areas retain a lot of detail that you're not necessarily seeing, whereas areas that are white and blown out have lost everything. So I was able to bring up all the detail in this heron, and I just loved the beat of its wings. Herons take off so slowly because they're a big bird, and their wings are large and they flap slowly because they're large. They're not like swifts or swallows. And you can feel that weight of that bird slowly getting off the ground, getting airborne, rather like a 747. And for me, those clouds are the grandness of that flight. The I can't describe it. It's just the beauty of those two things together just seem to work really well together for me, texturally, color wise, and also their significance. You know, as I say, the heron, or if you want to get technical, this is a great white egret, which is of the heron family and is often called a white heron. Is a big bird. It's a 747 of birds, as opposed to like a swift or a swallow, which is a Cessna. So yeah,
We have lots of
that,
egrets and herons around
yeah,
my parents' house. And
yeah.
we have
Um,
a willow tree that they all perch in at night. And it
a
is just,
willow.
yes,
Wow.
it's
Okay.
like and when you go back on the back side of the pond, you see they're like when they are perched, they look like a big white puff ball
Yeah.
in it, and
Yeah.
it's
The necks are
gorgeous.
in, and yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
gorgeous. Like sometimes there'll be 10 in there. It's ridiculous.
You should take some photos. I'll come by and take some.
Yeah, come on down.
Are they white ones or the gray herons?
They're the white ones.
Mm.
Big,
It's
big white.
funny. The gray herons, I find they're actually more attractive when they're perched. Because when they take off, they're really scraggly. A lot of them. I waited to watch one a couple of weeks ago. I saw him perched. I thought I want to get this guy in flight. So I took a whole bunch of photos of him in flight. It took forever waiting for him to do it. And I looked at him, and he's really sort of scruffy, and all his hair's like this, and his neck's all kind of strange, and all of the photos. So I thought, okay, the white ones win in that respect. The parrots in the sky. That also is similarly parrots at sunset. That is a mixture of two shots. You would never get a shot of parrots like that against clouds like that because the perspectives are not actually accurate, but it works as a graphic. That was a set of clouds I saw. It was they turned into quite a heavy thunderstorm, and it was at sunset. But I thought, my God, what a lovely, lovely graphic they make. I had to take out some telephone wires that were in the shot, but I kept the parrots, and I just thought that they worked really well with color wise and everything as a graphic with those clouds. So that's another example of using two shots together, and in this particular case, cloudscapes, which I love. All right,
All right, thank you.
Jenny, thank you ever so much. I hope
You're so
I
very
behaved properly.
Absolutely. I've loved every bit of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
brilliant.
bye.